She never expected that one quiet morning at school would expose who truly had a heart, and who only pretended to. While the entire class laughed at a trembling girl struggling to defend herself, the kind twin, the one with a dark face the world often underestimated, stood up alone. No backup, no applause, no audience, just pure courage. But what she didn't know was that this single moment would change her reputation, her sister's fate, and the entire school forever. Because when cruelty becomes entertainment, only the bravest dare to break the noise. And that day, she stood alone. The morning sunlight slanted through classroom windows, painting long golden lines across the desks as students shuffled in, buzzing with their usual energy. It was supposed to be an ordinary day, nothing special, nothing memorable. But destiny doesn't send warnings. It simply waits for the moment when ordinary becomes unforgettable. The twins entered the classroom together, as they always did. One with the soft, calming presence of a quiet night sky, the black-faced twin, Nira, whose kindness made even strangers feel understood. And the other, the white-faced twin, Zara, sharp-tongued, impatient, and always ready to roll her eyes at the world. Though their faces contrasted dramatically, their personalities divided them even more. They were sisters by birth, but opposites from the soul. As they took their seats, a faint commotion stirred near the back of the room. A girl named Mia, small, shy, and almost invisible most days, sat hunched over her notebook, her trembling fingers clutching a pencil like she wished she could sink into the seat. She was the type of student people ignored unless they wanted entertainment. And today, unfortunately, the classroom was bored. A group of students circled around her, whispering loudly enough for everyone to hear. Mia kept her eyes down, trying to disappear, but one of the boys snatched her notebook. The room erupted into mean laughter as they flipped through her private drawings. Little watercolor scenes of forests, stars, and imaginary creatures, the only places where she felt safe. Zara watched with the amused smirk she always wore around drama. She nudged her sister with her elbow, whispering, "Relax. It's funny. She'll survive." But Nira didn't laugh. Her jaw tightened as she watched Mia's shoulders curl inward, her breath shaking like she was trying not to break. Kindness isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It simply aches when others hurt. And right now, Nira's chest felt heavy. Something inside her whispered that someone needed to step in. Someone who didn't care about being mocked or judged. But the entire classroom was laughing. Even people who normally stayed silent joined in, simply because being cruel was easier than being different. The teacher stepped out to make a phone call, which only made the crowd braver. Mia finally stood up, reaching for her notebook, but one of the boys lifted it high above her head, imitating her soft voice in a mocking tone that made the room erupt again. Her eyes glistened with humiliation. Nira's voice cracked the air before she even realized she had stood up. "Give it back." The room fell into a stunned silence. Everyone turned toward her. The quiet girl with the black face, the one people rarely noticed unless they wanted something done gently. She didn't yell. She didn't threaten. Her tone was steady calm, but firm enough to slice through the noise. Zara froze beside her, shocked. Confrontation wasn't Nira's style. Kind people often suffer in silence, but not today. The boy holding the notebook raised a brow. "Relax, hero. We're just having fun." Nira stepped forward, her eyes locked directly on his. Hurting someone's feelings isn't fun. It's just cruel. For a moment, the room remained still. Some students shifted uncomfortably. Others waited for things to get more dramatic. Zara whispered sharply, "Sit down. Why are you even getting involved? This isn't your problem." But Nira didn't sit down. Her heart pounded, but it pushed her forward rather than pulling her back. She asked for it back. "That should be enough," she said, her voice gentle but unshakable. The boy hesitated, not because he felt guilty, but because he didn't expect anyone to challenge him, especially not her. "Or what?" he mocked, leaning back with a smirk. Nira didn't answer with threats. Instead, she stepped beside Mia, placing a soft hand on her shoulder. That single gesture carried more strength than any shout. "You're brave," she whispered to the trembling girl, "and you deserve better than this." The room stirred. Some students exchanged guilty glances. Empathy, even a small act of it, had the power to make cruelty feel uncomfortable. Zara groaned, annoyed at the attention her sister was drawing. She hated moments where kindness made her feel small, like a mirror exposing everything she lacked. "Stop pretending to be some saint," she snapped loudly, trying to turn the room's eyes away from her discomfort. "She's weird anyway. No one even talks to her." The boy nodded in agreement. "Exactly. Why defend someone who can't even defend herself?" Nira turned to Zara, sadness flickering more than anger. "Because someone has to," she said softly. Zara's chest tightened unexpectedly. She didn't like how those words made her feel, like she was standing on the wrong side of a line that suddenly mattered. "Whatever," she muttered, crossing her arms. But her voice lacked its usual sharpness. Nira faced the boy again, her posture steady. "Give it back," she repeated, her voice carrying the quiet force of someone who will not be moved. And then something shifted. Maybe it was the uncomfortable silence. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the way Nira looked at him, not with anger, but with disappointment. He finally tossed a notebook toward Mia, rolling his eyes. "Fine. Take it." Mia caught it with shaky hands, clutching it to her chest like a rescued piece of her heart. Tears pooled in her eyes, not from sadness now, but from relief. Nira smiled softly at her. "You're not alone," she whispered. The room remained silent, heavy with the weight of what had just happened. Zara stared at her sister, with a strange mixture of confusion and envy. Why did kindness look so powerful when she tried so hard to look strong? The teacher returned a moment later, sensing the uncomfortable tension. But before she could ask, everyone quietly returned to their seats. No one wanted to admit what had happened, except Nira. She didn't hide. She didn't shrink. She simply sat beside Mia for the rest of the morning, offering her quiet company, making sure she felt safe. And that day, a day meant to humiliate someone, instead revealed who truly carried courage in their heart. By lunchtime, whispers had begun spreading. Students replayed the moment, stunned that Nira stood up alone when no one else dared. Zara hated the whispers, not because they praised her sister, but because she had been part of the laughter. Each retelling stabbed at her ego until the truth stung. Nira was everything she pretended not to care about but secretly wished she could be. And for the first time in a long time, Zara walked home quietly, while Nira talked softly with Mia, whose smile finally returned. That single act of courage changed the dynamic of the entire school. People began treating Mia differently. They began respecting Nira. They began questioning their own silence. Sometimes the world changes not with a shout, but with a gentle voice refusing to stay quiet. And the day Nira stood alone, she proved she never truly was. Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's soft, steady, and shaped like compassion. The world often praises strength that looks fierce, but real strength is the kind that stands up for someone who cannot stand alone. The day Nira defended Mia, she showed everyone that kindness is not weakness. It is power disguised in gentleness. Most people choose silence because silence is safe. Speaking up is scary, especially when the crowd laughs. But the truth is simple. The moment you rise for what's right, you inspire others to rise too. Cruelty spreads fast, but so does courage. And sometimes all it takes is one brave heart to remind everyone else what being human truly means.